If you really want to predict how long a person will live, then forget about their cholesterol for a second and ignore the number on the scale. There's one special factor, a hidden sign of life, that medicine now tells us is the best way to guess your lifespan, your freedom, and even your brain health. To see why, we must look past the old advice we have heard for decades and look at what is actually happening inside our bodies as we get older. For years, we have been told that aging means we will get weaker no matter what. We are told to worrying about our weight and to worrying about specific numbers on a lab report. But what if the real measure of health is not what you lose, but what you keep? What if the difference between a nursing home and a full life in your 80s comes down to one type of tissue that most of us completely stop thinking about after age 50? Today, we are going to go through the 5 key layers of this health secret. We will move from the basic ideas that everyone misses through the surprising connections to your brain, and finally, I will share the game-changing revelation number 1. This is the single best way to turn back the clock, along with a simple test you can do right now in your living room. Just a quick, important reminder, all the information shared today is for learning purposes. Everyone's health situation is unique, so please talk to your doctor or healthcare provider before making any big changes to your diet, exercise, or health plan, especially if you have pre-existing conditions or are on medication. Let's use this knowledge to have good discussions with them. So, if you want to know how to build the armor that protects you from the very things that threaten seniors the most, you need to hear this. Let's begin with our foundational insight number 5, something that changes how we view aging entirely. We often think muscle is just for bodybuilders or athletes. However, in reality, muscle is your body's physiological pension fund. The reality we face is that most of us stop putting money into this fund in our 30s. Science shows us that after your mid-30s, you naturally lose between 1% and 3% of your muscle mass every single year if you do nothing to stop it. This process is called sarcopenia. Now, 1% might sound like a tiny number. Therefore, it is easy to ignore. It is like a small leak in a tire, so you don't notice it day to day. However, over decades, this adds up fast. By the time you reach your 70s, you could have lost 40% to 50% of your total muscle mass. This isn't just about losing the ability to open a jar. This loss is a separate risk factor for mortality. It makes you open to infections, slower to get better after surgery, and less strong overall. To put this in perspective, think of your muscle mass exactly like a retirement savings account. If you stop putting money in at age 35 and you keep taking out 3% every year, you will be broke by the time you really need that money in your 70s. But unlike money, it is never too late to make a deposit. Your body accepts investments of strength at any age. The earlier you realize that muscle is your health money, the richer and stronger your body becomes in your later years. Now that we understand the loss, let's look at why that muscle is so key for your internal engine. This brings us to strategy number 4, which is vital for anyone worried about blood sugar, diabetes, or energy levels. As we age, our blood sugar often creeps up, and our doctors warn us about prediabetes or insulin resistance. We often try to fix this only by cutting out foods. But there is a huge piece of the puzzle missing. We need to look at the destination of that sugar. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood glucose rises. Your body needs somewhere to put that energy. Here is the key. Around 70% to 80% of the glucose in your bloodstream is absorbed directly by your muscle tissue. Therefore, your muscle is the main tool for controlling your blood sugar. If you have low muscle mass, you have fewer storage units for that glucose. Your pancreas has to work harder, pumping out more insulin to force the sugar into cells that are already full or do not exist. This leads to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. To truly understand this, imagine your muscles are a giant sponge. A large, dry sponge can soak up a spilled glass of water, representing glucose, instantly. This leaves the counter or your blood clean. But if you shrink that sponge down to the size of a cotton ball, which is what happens with sarcopenia, that same glass of water has nowhere to go. It overflows. That overflow is high blood sugar, which hurts your nerves and blood vessels. By keeping muscle, you're keeping a large, thirsty sponge ready to soak up energy and keep your system balanced. Now, when it comes to managing blood sugar and metabolism, it is especially important to approach changes with care. If you are diabetic or on medication for blood sugar, increasing your activity can change your insulin needs. Please discuss this with your doctor to ensure your levels stay in a safe range as you get stronger. Moving deeper into our list, we arrive at secret #3. This one often surprises people the most because we do not naturally connect our biceps with our brains. But the connection is deep and proven by science. The fear of memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's is perhaps the biggest fear among seniors. We do puzzles and brain games to stay sharp. However, we might be ignoring the best brain medicine we have, which is our muscles. When you use your muscles, specifically through resistance, they do not just sit there. They act as an endocrine organ. They release chemicals called myokines. One of the most important effects of these chemicals is the release of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as miracle-grow fertilizer for your brain cells. It encourages the growth of new neural connections and protects the ones you have. Therefore, every time you challenge your muscles, you are essentially watering and fertilizing your brain's garden. Furthermore, muscle helps control inflammation. Chronic inflammation is like a slow-burning fire that damages brain tissue over time. The anti-inflammatory compounds released by healthy muscle help put out these flames. So, by keeping your body strong, you are building a cognitive shield that protects your memory and thinking power years down the road. It is a form of cognitive insurance that pays out rewards every single day. We are getting closer to the top. Vital truth number 2 is perhaps the most urgent. This isn't just about living a long time, this is about staying alive. In emergency medicine, there is a pattern that doctors see far too often. It begins with a fall. For a senior, a fall is rarely just a fall. It can result in a hip fracture, which has a scary high death rate in the year following the injury. But the tragedy isn't just the bone breaking, it is the loss of freedom that follows. This creates a difficult cycle. People get weaker, so they feel unsteady. Because they feel unsteady, they develop a fear of falling. Therefore, they move less to stay safe, but moving less speeds up the muscle loss, which actually increases the risk of falling. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy of decline. You need to view your muscles, specifically your glutes, quads, and core, as your body's shock absorbers and external armor. Imagine a car driving over a massive pothole. If the shocks are worn out and thin, the axle snaps. But if the shocks are heavy-duty and robust, the car bounces, stabilizes, and keeps driving. Strong leg muscles allow you to catch yourself when you stumble. They turn a possible hip fracture into a minor mistake. If you have a history of falls or balance issues, please do not start with hard movements. Safety is the most important thing. Start with supported movements, perhaps holding a sturdy chair or counter, and consider working with a physical therapist to build your armor safely. And now, we arrive at the most critical point. Our game-changing revelation number 1. This is where we tie everything together into a solution that you can actually use. We have talked about the what and the why. But how do you measure this, and is it too late? The answer to the second question is a definite no. Research confirms that people in their 80s and even 90s can build a lot of muscle mass. The body is always listening. The revelation here is a simple metric that researchers now consider a vital sign as important as blood pressure. It is grip strength. Your grip strength is remarkably linked with your total body strength and your longevity. It predicts heart attacks, strokes, and death from any cause. Think of your grip strength like the battery life indicator on your phone. When the grip is weak, it is a signal that the whole system, your biological battery, is running low. It suggests that your core, your legs, and your reserves are empty. Therefore, strengthening your grip and your body is like putting yourself back on the charger. So, what is the protocol? It relies on two pillars. First, protein. You cannot build a house without bricks. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at processing protein. Therefore, we actually need more of it, not less. Aiming for protein at every meal, such as eggs, fish, beans, and dairy, provides the raw materials to repair and build that tissue. Second, progressive resistance. This does not mean becoming a power lifter. It means asking your muscles to do slightly more today than they did yesterday. Here is a practical way to start right now. It is called the sit-to-stand test. Use a sturdy chair. Cross your arms over your chest. Try to stand up and sit back down as many times as you can in 30 seconds. If you cannot do it without using your hands, that is your baseline. That is your priority. Practice this movement. But do it intentionally. Every time you stand, you are fighting sarcopenia. Every time you squeeze a heavy grocery bag, you are charging your battery. The revelation is that you do not need a gym membership to save your life. You just need gravity, consistency, and the understanding that you are building the armor that will carry you through the next 20 years. And there you have it, our game-changing revelation number 1. It might seem surprisingly simple, just standing up from a chair or checking your grip, but as we have explored, the impact it has on your longevity is truly amazing. That is why we saved it for last. It puts the power back in your hands. So, we have covered a lot of ground today. We started with the hidden pension fund of muscle loss, explored the metabolic sponge that fights diabetes, revealed the cognitive shield for your brain, armored up with vital truth number 2 against falls, and finally, unlocked the battery test to measure your true vitality. Each one is a step to a more vibrant, healthier you. Now, I have a question for you. Which of these insights, perhaps it was the connection to brain health, or maybe the realization about the pension fund, resonated with you the most? Which one are you thinking of trying first? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below. If you found this journey through these health discoveries valuable, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps others find our community. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more powerful strategies tailored for our fantastic group of healthy seniors. Until next time, stay healthy, stay curious, and keep thriving.